We're moving on to the back cutting now, which literally means carving from the back. So obviously I've got this upside down on the bench. Because this is no longer a flat board, I'm going to have to pack it at different points to make sure that everything is resting. This bit in the middle is quite fragile, so I'm not going to deal with this bit now, and I have to be careful to avoid that. I'm actually going to work around the edges first. What I've done is I've, like for example here, I've put a block under here and some wedges, and basically I've gone around and everywhere I don't want to feel any sort of give. That's nice and solid, clamped at each end. So these wedges are really good for that. Make sure everything's settled, down. Avoid that bit, and now we're going to start on the edges. Here's the line that we scored in that goes along the back here. The grain is going this direction. So say on this part, as an example, we can just work our way downhill here. So we're joining the back cutting in with the undercutting. And when we come up here, we'll have to come in this direction. And at this point, we'll be finishing off across like that. So again, we're not talking more than 15, 20 degrees at the most, so not a lot. So we're coming down here. Now we've got this bit here because the bud is on the other side. So we have to treat this a little bit like a relief carving. Take up to the edge here. And then we can start removing some of this wood. Let's use this one. This is nicely firmly held down, so at some point I join the back cutting with the front, the undercutting at the front. So you can see we're left with a sort of ridge here where the two come down. That's fine, you won't see that from the back. And then when we come to the actual edge here, we've got the line, so we can trim that back to the line, right up to the carving. Put a little V-tool in there. So we'll do the best we can on this, and then we might have to go back, turn it over, and have a look and just check that we've got this right, because we're now not really able to see from the front. But pulling that back and then cleaning that up. And this will just end up where it ends up, really. And then on this side, perhaps I'll pick that back a little bit. There. And finish off. No problem with putting a little V-tool down there to clean up. Clean that up. So that'll be something like that. That's how it looks. And then this one over here, Again, we can come away up here because this is quite strong and I've got a block underneath. It's that further on bit. So we can come downhill on this one. And then again, when we get in here, view tool, I get by the line. Look at our corner just in there. So you can see that the undercutting doesn't join. That's fine, but that line keeps going across. Keep an eye on that because you will see this edge from the front. So that's the sort of thing. So we work all the way around the outside, clean all that up, make sure that's running nicely, and we can go as far as we can up here, you know, without, as long as we feel safe. And this line here, these lines which are the back of the undercutting or the back cupping, whatever, you want to make sure these lines are nice and smooth and even, because you've got the front good. Let's have the back good looking as well. This is a bit down here that I was just working on, and I've continued that sort of process of bringing the back cut down and sorting out whatever the join is. Where that falls will be where it falls. It is a bit odd, and like for example here and here don't come together in the same sort of way. That's just the way the geometry works. Don't worry about that, just make sure everything's clean as you go round. You know, side to side, coming in and cleaning up the junction, and make sure this line, this outside line here, is nice and clean as well. So I was able to do most of it around the outside, but I still left, you know, including these bits here by packing, but I left this bit untouched because I want to show you another method of back cutting, which will be important if you're doing a smaller version of this, because a smaller version would obviously need smaller stamens, so it becomes quite delicate, and I think this method is quite good for fairly delicate work. So let me show you how I'd approach this more fine, delicate part. I've got my carving upright in a vise so I can get to it both sides. I'm going to use this knife. This is my favourite tool for this sort of work. It's a short blade, long handle, very sharp. And what I'm going to do first of all is feel and look through here, and I can see that this end of this petal on the other side joins something like this. So it comes quite far down there, and there's another one happening here. So I get a sense of where things are. And what I'm going to do is basically support the carving with this hand as I use this knife. So I can use it like this, just paring away like this. And this bevel is slightly rounded, so it is able to do this a little bit. Okay, or I can use it like this, so I'm coming downhill here, supporting that bit downhill there. So you've got to keep your thumb out of the way. If I'm doing anything like that, I'll keep my thumb out of the way, or pushing with this thumb. Pushing it down there like that. So same on this side, I can start out there. I might need to turn the carving around a little bit to get at this, but this. Slicing cuts are good like that, pushing. And then checking from the front, so this line's now continuous with that one here. So that's essentially what I'm doing. Keeping my fingers out of the way. Slicing cuts. And again, these junctions here and the shape of it really end up where they'll end up. Let's make them neat. When I've done this, I go back to the front and check everything's looking right. And the idea is that this is back cutting, and the undercutting is that we don't see this at all from the normal view. We just see the edges and the horizons of the rounded forms. Okay. Before I put any finishes on, let's talk about how we're going to hang this carving. The simplest way is something like this. It's a little ring with a screw, and that will go on this top edge like this. The weight of the carving might not be dead down the middle, so you need to check the balance of the carving before you place this into the back. Wouldn't necessarily be dead in the middle. Alternatively, a bit more secure perhaps, is two screw holder like that. Most secure of all is an escutcheon plate like this. This is a keyhole plate, and you use a force snippet or something to let it into the wood, so it actually will sit into the wood itself, and then you drill out and make out the holes. We have a video about this, which I'll put a note to down below. So you would have more than one. You'd have two of these escutcheon plates set equally on either side. Sorry, I'm down to the camera here. But that way you don't have to worry about the weight. You can't knock this off the wall accidentally, and it's quite secure because the escutcheon plate locks into the screw into the wall. Okay, so you can do that before or after you finish. I'm going to start the finishing now, and for that I'm going to use this matte acrylic varnish, sort of thing used for acrylic paints or oil paints to finish off. I'm going to put it on the inside edge and the outside edge and all over the back of the carving, but I'm not going to put it on the front, which is where I'm going to add the wax. So fairly straightforward. I'll just decant a little bit of this into my bottle, and then start adding this in. Be careful not to leave big lumps of it, because it's not so easy to see. So I'd go around here, and then I'm going to go around the outside. Let's make sure you can see this. Going here, then I'm going to go on the inside here, but I'm stopping short of the actual carving. So the back of this carving, including the undercut itself, I'm going to add to, but not the carving itself. So very carefully work my way along here, and of course the outer edge. along there. So just work my way along. Here, where it's rounding over, I'll just go to the edge of the back of the wood, like so. Here where there's or wherever there's a sharp edge, I can actually go into there like that. With the back finished, I can turn to the front and waxing. I've got my beeswax, which is fairly soft, and I'll put that in with my brush, and I'll be able to work that into corners and so on. And when I've got a bit on, I'll get a hairdryer like this and warm it up, and you'll see it'll melt into the wood itself, and you'll see this colour changing. And then when that's melted in, I'll get a rag and wipe off excess of the brush and so on, and make sure I don't get clogged up into any corners. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work over the whole carving with this beautiful wax. I'll bring out the colour. So I give the carving a final burnish with a clean cotton rag. But this still takes a while to go off. It's still quite sticky. So we're going to leave that for a couple of days to really harden before we really do anything with it. But there you are. The carving's finished. A lot of hard work, but I like it very much, and I think it's definitely worth the effort.